Good evening, it is 7:05 and I hereby call to order the first meeting of the Village of Tivoli Board of Trustees in the new year 2020. It is January 15th. Would you please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Before we get into our regular business, we have a guest here tonight, Mr. John Penny, who is going to tell us about the 2020 census.
Yes, okay.
So, sir, we have the floor, and if you wouldn't mind stepping up here.
Not at all.
And thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Okay, so I am indeed John Penny. I'm what we call the chair of the Dutchess County Complete Count Committee, which has been charged about to raise awareness about the importance of people filling out the 2020 census. Briefly about myself, I was a long-time journalist for about 3 decades. In the last 20 years, I worked for the Poughkeepsie Journal. I left at the beginning of last year and started to work for the City of Poughkeepsie and Dutchess County governments under a fairly unique partnership, mainly doing communications, mostly working for the city, but I get tasked with special things for the county, and this was kind of right up my alley. I guess maybe they felt, or it seemed like a really good fit. So the county executive through the planning department asked me to put together this committee and do outreach on the census. We've been up and running since June. I'm pretty proud of that because we're a little bit ahead of a lot of counties, quite frankly. Nevertheless, we have a lot of work to do, for sure. So I'll just start with why the census is important and what it is. We do the census every 10 years. It's mandated in the Constitution that we do it. And the Constitution says that we count everybody. And when we say everybody, we mean everybody. It's regardless of whether they're here legally or not. If they are breathing and living in the United States, they get counted. Or they're supposed to get counted at least. And you might ask, well, why is that important? And I'll give you 2 big reasons. One, once the numbers are in, we'll go through a redistricting of legislative lines, congressional lines, and other lines, and they'll be redrawn based on those numbers. And if you all might remember that before 2010, we had 3 congressional representatives in this area. We now have 2. I kind of feel like I should be able to stop right there and not give any more of this presentation for people to just understand that, this is important. But if that's not enough, big money is on the line, about $675 billion, affecting 132 programs, everything from highway to housing money, and something that's near and dear to all municipal boards' hearts, which is community development block grants. I'm sure everyone on the board will know, and probably everyone in this room would know, that when people do grant writing, municipal grant writing, inevitably census numbers are used in those calculations. So I try to use the example, if you're really a community of 10,000, but the census only thinks you have 7,000 people, and you try to apply for a grant to maybe do a play park, you're going to get less money. So that's a kind of a specific example of what's on the line. So what I like to say is communities that are undercounted, I don't really like to say this, but communities that are undercounted will get hurt. They'll get hurt financially. So maybe, hopefully I got you convinced this is important and we need to do it. So the next step is, you might say, well, how does this work? And it works fairly simply in most cases, and it's more complicated for other people. But in March, about 95% of us will be reached by mail, and we'll get what we call an invitation to fill out the census. The good thing is, I hope it's a good thing, and I think it is on balance, for the first time ever, you'll be able to fill it out online. You could also fill it out through the mail, or you could actually call someone and have it filled out that way. So 95% of us will be reached that way. As a journalist, I would say that's really interesting, but I need to get to 100% to make the story what it really needs to be. Who are the other 5%? And the other 5% are people who have P.O. boxes. It's really important to note that the census tracks by address. It will not send the form to a P.O. box. Other people live in what we call far-flung places like Alaska and northern Maine. I've covered the census several times as a journalist. I wasn't an expert then. I don't pass myself as an expert now. But I was really interested to learn, because I always associated the census with March and April, that they actually start counting pretty much now in those places. So they do it, some of it ahead of time, and then they back end what we call the field workers, and we'll talk about that as we go. So that will, you'll get a notification, you'll get one of many notifications starting in March, and one of the things I like to say is that the census is very persistent. It's not going to give up on you after 1 or 2 mailings. It's going to try to reach you through postcard, through any way it can. That will continue through March. April 1st is what we call the official census day. A lot of people are under the misunderstanding that they have to fill out the census on April 1st. They do not. You could fill it out the day you get the invitation to fill it out, the ability to fill it out. April 1st is an important day for some people. If they're, say, have 2 homes, or college students, for example, they get counted at the college for 2 reasons. Because 1, their predominant residence is considered the college, and because that's where they are at April 1st. So that is a demarcation day, but it's for most people, it's not the day, again, where you have to fill out the census. So that will continue through the process of trying to notify you before they go out in the field will continue through April. And then in May, I gotta make sure I do have the right. The field workers will go out. And so there's a couple of things I want to say about that. One is, for most of us, for me, for example, I live in the village of Rhinebeck with my wife and my dog, and I have only 1 house. So this is going to be really easy for me to do. I'm going to get it. I'll be able to do it. I know how to use a computer. I'll be able to fill it out online. It should be taking me about 12 to 15 minutes, and I can move on with my life. I suggest that anyone who can do that, please do that, because some people have much more complicated situations. Certainly aspects of our Latino community have more complicated situations. And the field workers, first we need to do an education number, and that's what we're doing now. But the field workers are going to have to go out and count what we call hard to count places and hard to count people. And we want them to spend as much time dealing with that rather than chasing down people that really could have done this in a very easy way. So to address the more difficult situations, and it's not just the Latino population, it's also people who quite frankly have an extreme fear of government, or who, and in some cases rightly so, fear security or don't want to give information out about their children. We have an education to do about that, and one of the biggest parts of that education is that the census is confidential. Not only can the census not share that information with the public, or what I used to do as a former journalist, I couldn't get the information. It can't share it with other federal agencies. It can't share it with ICE. And that's a really important point as we try to reach populations that are going to be very reluctant to fill out the form. If people are found in violation of that, if a census employee is found in violation of that, the person faces a $250,000 fine and 5 years in prison. You might recall earlier this year, there was the question of whether the citizenship question was going to be on the census. That question is not going to be on the census. I've been told I can speak as frankly as I want, and quite frankly, I think people who hired me at the county knew that was going to be the case. I think the damage has been done to some degree on that, and I think we have some tough sledding. And in terms of, we only do this every 10 years, so looking back 10 years and 10 years behind that, I would say this: we have some headwinds because people can fill it out online, but I would ask rhetorically, do you think people's trust in government is more so than 10 years ago or less? And do you think that people's concerns about cybersecurity are more or less? So I do think that even though I feel like we've been out there pushing this really hard, that we have some tough sledding to do. We have a great committee. It's a 15-person committee. It's a very diverse committee. And when I talk about diversity, I don't just mean the ethnic makeup of the committee. We have 4 people that are bilingual, which is very helpful and has proven very helpful. But it's also, we have some people who've been doing outreach in Dutchess County for decades. And we have some people who've only been doing it for several years, but they're in strategically important places like the north side of Poughkeepsie, and they're embedded in those communities. This really works through what we call trusted sources, trusted voices. You all were elected, people gave you their vote, that's a very sacred thing. So I'm urging you to reach out to your folks and to try to explain why this is important and that it is confidential. And the only way this is going to work, and that goes for everyone in the audience, we all have people in our life that people trust us. I can knock on their door and they won't know me from Adam, and they might say, well, maybe a nice guy or maybe not. I'm not really sure if I trust them, but they'll trust you. So we're asking everyone's help is basically what it comes down to. I want to, just before I sum up, I want to give you one other piece of very important information. Children are historically undercounted in the census. There's probably a couple of reasons for that. One being that when you're filling it out and you have a 9-month-old baby down there, you're thinking, well, this doesn't pertain. But as I used the example of the playground and health insurance, health services, that it certainly does pertain to your child. The other reason, probably the biggest reason, is people don't like to give out information about their children. But this is one time where I think that, you run a bigger risk of quite frankly not doing that and not seeing your community benefit the way that it should. So we have a website. We need to shorten this website, and I'm working on that into a nice URL. You could Google it at Dutchess County Complete Count Committee, and I promise you it's the first thing that comes up. I keep checking to make sure that's the case. And we have an email, which is completecount@dutchessny.gov. I'm available, I have a card I can give you, or there's ways of reaching me, just let me know and I can do that. I'll take any questions from the board. If you don't mind, I'll take questions from the public as well. It's up to you.
Sure, yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So you mentioned about cybersecurity, but we're still gonna get a form in the mail as an initial step, and then we go online?
Thank you for it. No, you're gonna get an invitation in the mail. They don't want to send you the form.
Right, no, but so we'll get something in the mail, not in
Yes.
an email? Right.
No, not in an email. You will get it in the mail.
Right.
And if you got a post office box, how do you get it?
Well, most people have a post office box. You still have an actual address,
Yeah.
and it will get to your address.
Okay.
There certainly should be, and I want to close this gap a little bit better. That the post office is a federal agency. There will be, and there should be all sorts of literature about if you have a PO box, the census, that information. I want to close that loop. I've been told that, but I'd like to get a little bit more information on that. But again, if you have, just because you have a PO box, if you have a 911 emergency, they don't go to your PO box.
Yeah, correct.
Right.
But the post office tells us that if it's not addressed to your PO box, that let's say like myself, of 60 Montgomery Street, if my mail says that, they do not have to put it in my mailbox.
Well, this they do. This won't be delivered to your PO box. This goes to your address.
If you
Yeah,
don't
but
have
if
a
you
way
don't
to
have-
receive
but
it.
If you don't have a way to receive it, you may end up with a field worker, at your door. If they can't reach you another way.
You mean that?
Because this is really important. The census tracks by address. So picture looking at a subdivision, right? You go look at schematics of subdivisions. They're going to know who's filled out the form, and they're going to say, we have not had a response on that structure. That's how they know to go to people's structures. And it's an overlay. The county planning department got involved because one of the things the census needs, they need new information on any new development that's occurred, for example. They use 911 information. You could also use parcel access, which is a very good tool. The thing about parcel access, it tells you there's a structure there, but it doesn't tell you if it's been subdivided into 2 rentals. It doesn't tell you how many people are living there. So again, the census does this by address, tracks by
So
address.
they do it by address, but they can't deliver to the address.
Well, no,
So-
most people can get information sent to their physical address, even if they have a PO box.
But the post office won't be able to.
The post office,
Deliver to
no,
the
that's not my understanding, that the census will do that.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
you
so
see
they're
what I'm
not
saying?
relying on the post office to deliver.
As far as I know, but
Yeah.
the point being, if you're saying that the post office delivers it to your,
No,
no, that's what I'm
If
saying.
it's not addressed to the PO box number, they do not have to deliver that mail to you. If they won't put your physical address in that post office box.
They usually do though. Yeah.
This one does
Yeah.
most of the time, but there is a thing out there that says they do not have to do that.
Yeah, well, this is a separate situation.
Depends how Melody
I
feels.
have a question about people who we know live in this community but do not have a physical address. How does that,
What do they have?
they.
I mean, homeless people get
They
counted.
Oh, no, homeless, that's right, there are homeless people. Homeless get counted, they're what we call, there are people, they call them special quarters. That colleges are actually considered that, people in prisons are considered that, the homeless are considered that. Homeless are counted several ways. One, the county has a number of people that we know are homeless that are in shelters, or in a lot of cases they're in hotels, like some are in Hyde Park. So there's that number, and then on a day, the census will actually fan out and go to places that they know there are homeless people, and they actually just start counting heads. That's another way they do it. But that, I don't want to get too in the weeds here, because there's a whole special operations that handle, like people in nursing homes, for example. How do they get counted? The administrators are sent a notification by the census, we need a head count to how many people are in your nursing home. That's how people in nursing homes get counted. These are all good questions, but I'm just saying this is what I've said about, this gets complicated, you know, when you get out of what I'm really more talking about, which is individuals who have homes, you know, filling out the census.
What I'm hearing you say is you can't go to them, they have to come to you. You can't go to the census.
You should wait until they come to you, but if we're hearing, for example, if it's April and you know someone who hasn't been notified in any way, yeah, get a hold of me, and
Okay.
you know, that's where we're gonna try to, you know, get that gap lit, which is why, again, the more we can close that gap by having people who don't have a problem doing this do it, the more the field workers are going to be able to concentrate on these hard to count cases. And you know, I'll just put a hand up and say, the federal administration is under a little criticism for, you know, how much resources they're putting into the field operation. So, you know, and that is a criticism. I'm not going to judge it, but it's certainly out there. And what we're trying to do is mitigate that.
Got it.
That's exactly what we're trying to do. So,
Did you have a question about
Yeah, I forgot what,
that?
sorry about that.
I had
that's okay.
a question first. So, how long does the entire federal census take, and when does the United States see the numbers?
That's a great question. It goes essentially into the end of June. I don't believe they have a hard date, because I think I've been told it's the end of June. They're gonna wait and see where they are and how they feel, you know, how this is all gone. And then my understanding, the numbers get reported to the president at the end of the year, and then the whole process begins of redistricting, and that's a whole legislative.
So, we Americans know our head count December of 20 or January 21? Or?
The numbers are given to the president. When it actually becomes public, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'll try to find that out. That's a good question.
Yeah, well, I know that in Tivoli we're pretty eager to see, you know, 2010 we were 1,118.
We'll have
I wonder if we're going up or down.
we will know how the count's going, and we'll have a good indication on. The problem with the census is this: you only know what you know. So I want to go back to hard to count areas, and we talked about them, and I didn't articulate where they are. They're mainly, and this is not totally, between the arterials and Poughkeepsie. They're in parts of Wappinger and Wappinger's Fall, and they're in Dover. And Beacon. Those are our biggest places. They are, to some degree, where our Latino population is, but that's not the only statistic that tends to overlay. The other ones are, quite frankly, poverty, lack of education. There's other examples that tend to go into where we call a hard to count area. But a hard to count area means this. It means that that 70% or fewer people are responding to the census. And it means like the rest has to be made up by the field workers, and that's historically based on, say, the 2010 data. But we only know what we know. We don't know who was not, we don't know what the actual numbers, we don't know who wasn't counted. See what I'm saying? So it's kind of, that's what it is, you know?
Right.
So that's a challenge.
And we're, I think it was probably a year ago that the Village of Tivoli, that I got a letter from the county that said, hey, municipalities in Dutchess County, big and small, do you want the county to do this for you or take the lead for you? And I believe that almost every municipality in the county said yes to that offer. Is that the case? Because he told me how many towns and villages you're visiting. And I think that's great and that's helpful for a small place like us, because if Tivoli had to count itself, that would be
Well,
challenging.
the county doesn't do the count.
Right.
The census does the count.
But you're sort of liaising between us and the
I'm
feds.
acting as a liaison, and I'm really, what we're trying to do, and where we need everyone else help is to do the outreach and to make people aware of what this thing is, so when it comes in March, people aren't saying, what is this? So they fill it out. It's just basic sheer big numbers. We're trying to get as many people to fill it out as possible. So really what it comes down to, so the census workers can do their jobs better. So they're not overwhelmed with, oh my God, we gotta go out and count 60% of the population now instead of 14.
Because I think about other counties and other municipalities where maybe their county isn't as proactive as Dutchess County has been, and I'm glad that I live here and work here.
Yeah, thanks. I feel pretty good, but like I said, I'll feel better at the end, and if we get where we want to go, but thank you. Yeah,
And in the same way that, we want to get counted properly so we have the right numbers when we go after money, etc.
Yeah.
It's true for the county as well, right? So it's in the county's interest to get a good count in their county.
It is totally in everyone's interest. Here's what it means, and this is why people say, well, why isn't, shouldn't the county be doing this? It's like, well, yeah, the county is doing this, but there are municipal grants, there are county grants that benefit the municipalities. There are state grants that benefit. There are federal grants. So particularly the state grants, if the state loses, we lose.
Yeah.
And another one is school districts.
Congress.
So one of the things I didn't really talk about, and I've probably taken up enough of your time, aside from talking to municipalities, I reached out to a lot of different segments of our society. I've talked to the School Boards Association, I've talked to the superintendents of schools, the United Way, the nonprofits, because the nonprofits, quite frankly, have a lot at stake too, because they do a lot of grant writing, and the grant writing is based on numbers. So there's a lot of stakeholders here, it's really connected, we're all connected to this. I hate this, that sounds too lofty, but we really are.
It's in the Constitution.
And it's in the Constitution, that's right.
That's not lofty, what is, right?
That's right, that's right.
Any other questions
Yes.
for John?
Yeah. Thanks. Every past census form I've ever filled out, they asked about ethnicity, race, whatever. I don't know. Are they still going to do this? And what would be the point of that?
It's an excellent question. There used to be a long and short form way back at some point, but this is basically a short form. That question is on the census, but here's what happened in relation to the citizenship. I'll tell the story. It is kind of an interesting story, I think. When I was asked to do this, the citizenship question was still in play. So I said, well, okay, that's interesting. Terrible as far as I was concerned. So I called the census, like one of my first things I did, and I said, what do I do to someone who asked me this question about, what do I do about this question if I don't want to answer it? And the census gave me the answer I was actually hoped that they were going to give me, which was that we encourage everyone to fill out the whole form, because the more information we have, the better, and I'll explain that briefly in a second. But we would be remiss in saying that if someone decided to leave off a question or two and just gave us their name and the number of people in the households and their name, that your census will count. The reason why that other data could be important is, quite frankly, sometimes when municipalities go for certain grants, they get scored in a way that if you have a high minority community and you're trying to right an historical injustice, it could score in a certain way that would favor you.
Okay. Being white doesn't help minorities, I guess.
Well, the census also sort of reflects what's going on, right? Like 1790 to 1820 in New York State, you were asked how many slaves you had, right?
Right.
And then in the mid-1800s, there was lots of immigration. So you were asked if you were a citizen and also where you were born and where your parents were born, like both your parents.
Right.
And then like 1930, they asked if you owned a radio. So like, there's a lot of information in the census that is, you know, interesting.
It's only a couple of pages, and the focus is getting the names and the number of people in your household. That really is the focus.
Excellent. Any
This
other
is-
questions?
So I should fill out whatever they call Caucasian, white, Jewish, I don't know.
If you like, as long as you fill out,
Yeah.
you know how many people are in your households. We're good with that. Any information beyond that is good. And well, I appreciate this has been a good discussion. I've given this presentation a lot of times, and sometimes it's been a very good discussion like this, and some people are like, okay, thanks.
Well, thank you for coming, John.
Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it very much.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
All right, let's move into our regular meeting. We'll start with a village clerk's report. Clerk Bruno, please.
Yes, in the clerk's office, there was 369 trash tags that were sold, 2 payrolls were processed. Continuously, our deputy clerk, busy with planning and zoning. And the clerk's office will be closed on Monday, January 20th, in observance of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
Thank you, Clerk Bruno. Trustees, we have 3 sets of minutes in your binders. November 20th regular meeting, December 18th regular meeting, and December 20th special meeting. And is there a motion to accept all 3 sets of minutes? It's the Deputy Mayor. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Flip the 3-sided coin. Trustee Schneider had the second there. All in favor?
Aye.
Everyone's very eager to approve the minutes. I see, that's good. Moving on to a treasurer's report. I'd like to thank Treasurer Day.
So if they can't drop off,
This one's out of the general fund. It's $79,243.32. We had no spending in the F&G funds. So the total is the same as the number I just read. I'll say it again, $79,243.32. Is there a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
So moved.
Okay, that was Israedi followed by Cole. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Is there a motion to pay the bills?
So moved.
Second?
Aye. Second.
We're off on a rhythm today. All right.
Get it together, guys, get it together.
We had a motion by
Yeah.
Schneider and a second by Cole.
Okay. Got it.
All in favor? Aye. Bills may be paid. I understand we do not have a zoning report, and I will be getting after our building inspector to make sure that we get those. Next we have public comment on agenda items only. I just want to let the folks know we have added one item to the agenda, so we have a budget modification. We have a resolution awarding a bid for Broadway drainage swale clearing project, and the one we've added just after these were printed, we are going to resolve some procedures for water and sewer hookups. Now that the Water Authority is working here in the village, you know, Tivoli had its own policies for how a new home gets hooked up, and we need to sort of formally adopt what is going to be happening now with the Water Authority. So with that brief overview, is there any public comment on tonight's agenda items? So we will jump in. Trustees, we have one budget modification. This represents our first payment to a, what do we call it, a designer? Architect, who is doing some preliminary design work on an expansion to the Tivoli firehouse. This is not going to get into a very high level of resolution, but it's sort of a broad strokes, what could an expanded firehouse look like, to a degree that would allow the public to envision it. We're going to end up with a product that has some visuals that people can say this is what it would look like, and it would also allow the village board to do a seeker review, and there's some property line work that we might have to undertake in order to expand the firehouse. So backing up a little bit, as you know, our firehouse burned, and that's going to get reconstructed, but even before this fire, there'd been a need identified to expand the firehouse. So we figure while we've got this momentum, the day that the last repair is made, we hope to move right into an expansion. And the idea would be to expand to the west, about another 40 feet, and a second story on that, that expanded part. And so it would incorporate the existing building, and there's also an opportunity here to put a more attractive facade across the entire structure. So that's the budget modification. Trustees, we discussed it in the workshop. Is there a motion to accept the budget modification?
I'll move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Budget modification is passed. Next we have resolution authorizing the award of a bid for Broadway drainage swale clearing project. Now, we have been aware as Tivolians and as your government for many years about drainage problems in Tivoli Acres. All that water that goes through the various swales enters one swale at Madeline Court and then travels through 4 properties. There's an easement along the border there, and it comes out on Broadway opposite St. Sylvia's Church, and then it goes into a more drainage infrastructure that heads out south of the church. I know that in the past the village has cleaned that out. It's been quite a few years, so we are doing that. And in March, this contractor who's given us the best responsible bid is going to go in and remove all the vegetation along that swale. And the idea is we will do that. We will then see what benefits that has, and we will watch it through some storms for some time, and then we would have the option, if we think it's appropriate at that point, to then even scour it further. So the first step here is just to get all the vegetation out. That's all the vines and growth and things that are dropping leaves into the swale, and branches that have fallen in, etc. So this is, so I describe it coming from Madeline Court. If you go west on Broadway, where the St. Sylvia's parking lot is, it's the next thing to the west. It's kind of a wooded strip, and there's a water-filled swale through there. So that's where this project would be undertaken. The village engineer, Crawford and Associates, sent this to 6 different tree services. We got 2 quotes back, and the lowest responsible bidder was Frank Vosberg and Sons, with a bid amount of $12,400 for this vegetation removal project. So with that explanation, trustees, is there a motion to resolve to authorize the award to Vosberg and Sons?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
That was Cole, followed by Schneider. Is there any further discussion from the board?
This will be exciting.
This will be exciting. It's something that really needs to get done, and I hope that we see some results for our residents over there. I just want to finish this vote, and then I'll take your question if you want. A roll call vote. Deputy Mayor Major?
Aye.
Trustee Cole?
Aye.
Trustee Israedi?
Aye.
Trustee Schneider?
Aye.
And I also vote aye. Congratulations to Vosberg and Son, and we look forward to seeing this work done. You had a question?
Yeah, is this a man-made swale or a natural swale? Okay,
Yeah.
but is it like a culvert or it's less than a culvert?
So, you know, a swale is just an open
Yeah, just
ditch.
a pit.
You know,
Okay.
it's a
Ditch,
ditch.
okay.
So-
This ditch is full of
Okay.
bushes and trees.
Yeah, I
and
haven't even
leaves.
noticed
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
it's-
Okay.
it's
So next
not
time you're
very
walking
tight.
along there, it's
Yeah,
right between the
no,
St.
no,
Sylvia's
no.
parking lot and the sewer pump house, and there's just a wooded strip. Well, in that
Yeah.
wooded strip is a drainage swale that serves that entire area.
Or did serve.
Well,
Well, we're gonna
still
find out.
serves, but hopefully we'll serve more
Yeah.
efficiently once this is
If
done.
it did serve, we wouldn't be spending 12 grand to take.
Well, I mean, with all the stuff you're talking about, that's in there, it probably doesn't move water very well.
Nature's amazing, you turn your back, you gotta mow your lawn again.
Nature always wins.
Yeah.
I'd rather
So,
not.
and then we also have, as I said earlier, a third resolution regarding procedures for water and sewer customer hookups and line maintenance. Council, is there anything else you'd like to add on this?
I think we're just clarifying what's going on now that we have operated by Dutchess County Water and Wastewater. So customers will need to get their permits for the water and sewer through Dutchess County Water and Wastewater. If you are digging into the road, you're still gonna come to the village for that part, because it's our road. So it might be a little two-part process there, but Dutchess County will manage the process.
Yes, and when we adopt this resolution, we will make sure it gets to the building department, to the deputy clerk, and the planning board. Yes, all right, thank you.
So practically speaking, if you're building a house in the village, you're gonna go to the Water and Wastewater Authority with an application for a hookup, and then you're gonna come here in order to get the permit.
I think the water authority will come here to get the road cut permit from us.
Yeah, they're gonna facilitate the
I
process.
think once the
So
applicant
it's really one step
Because
further.
gets their permit, the water authority,
Takes the rest.
yeah.
The full payment goes to them, so.
Okay, awesome.
All right, is there a motion to adopt this resolution regarding procedures for water and sewer customer hookups and line maintenance?
So move.
That was trustee Israedi, is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Deputy Mayor Major?
Aye.
Trustee Cole?
Aye.
Trustee Israedi?
Aye.
Trustee Schneider?
Aye.
And I also vote aye, the resolution is adopted. Our next board meeting will be held Wednesday, February 19th at 7 PM, preceded by a workshop at 6 PM here at the historic Wasta Hall. And we have our regular second Wednesday workshop at 7 PM on February 12th. Moving on to committee reports. Trustee Israedi?
Well, I've got Tom Chrissy here, so we're going to be informing the length of service award credits shortly. That,
As soon as Bobby finishes up the totals and puts them into the computer and gives me the list, I will start the process of the LoSAP program, who made it, who didn't.
okay, and this program is administered by an entity called Penflex. And then those credits result in an award that is financed by the Village of Tivoli in conjunction with the town of Red Hook, are the two sort of service areas for the fire department. And each firefighter who gets 50 points,
50 or more, yeah.
will be awarded $500. That is put into a fund which is invested by RBC Wealth Management. And the fund is up to about $160,000 by now, I think, for approximately 20 to 22 firefighters who meet the criteria of being active.
Yep.
I used to do water and wastewater, so I will just comment that if you haven't been to the Dutchess County website and looked for DCWWA and hooked up and clicked on that and gone down to Village of Tivoli Water or Sewer, if you discover that when you turn on the faucet, nothing happens, if you make that effort, you will learn instantly what if the issue is system-wide, because they will post that information. And I discovered the other thing you can do when you go on that website is there's a little icon that says something delivery.
Dutchess Delivery.
Dutchess Delivery, right next to that posting. You click on that, they acquire your email address, and the next time a system-wide problem occurs, you will receive an email describing what is going on and what procedures you should take. This time they asked us to boil our water for 48 hours. And then they asked us to clear the pipes to make sure that there was no bacteria left in them. Very efficient system and very useful.
Thank you, Trustee Israedi, and I'll be speaking more about recent water events when it's my turn. We'll go to Trustee Schneider, please.
Absolutely. So the Tivoli Village Court Charge Volume Summary Report for the month of December. Charges received totaled 9 and charges disposed totaled 28. $2,905 was collected and remitted to the State Comptroller.
Thank you, Trustee Schneider. And I see, again, a lot of stop sign violations. That is the bulk of these three plus pages. I think those are mostly being written at the main intersection here. They're getting a lot of people, so, and most of those people actually live, down the street. It's us.
It's me.
It's Emily. So let's take our time moving through Sweet Tivoli and come to a nice full stop every time.
Give it a 5 count.
Give it a 5 count. Trustee Cole?
Thank you. So we've had a very busy month already in the Zoning Review Committee. We've got the culmination of a lot of work. In terms of short-term rental legislation, this is something we've been discussing for almost a year now, doing our research, working with our village planner, reviewing what other municipalities are doing, as well as throughout Dutchess County. We're at the point now that very soon, over the next several weeks, you'll be hearing about a public forum to be scheduled. We would encourage everyone of the public to please come. We'll present some initial considerations and thoughts about potential for short-term rental legislation. And when we talk about short-term rentals, what we're talking about are any individual rentals under 30 days. Airbnb is a part of that, but it's only one of the many, many platforms out there through which you can rent. So I would encourage all of the public, those of you in the room, those of you watching at home, when the notice of the public forum comes out, we hope you'll come. We want to hear your thoughts. Legislation has not been drafted. We want to get input from the public, and then that will be the next step. So that's an exciting event and time and something we've been working on. Secondly, we've been working for quite some time on revising the site plan law for the village to streamline it, make it easier for people when they're doing site plans. We have a draft of that legislation that has been prepared. We've got a few tweaks to make, and then that will be come before the public in a public hearing. So very exciting times on ZRC. We're very excited about the work we're doing, and we will, of course, make it very well known when we have that public forum date for short-term rentals.
Absolutely. Thank you, Trustee Cole, and thank you to everyone on the ZRC. It's a controversial issue and a very important one. Every community, I'd say the nation, but around the world is dealing with this right now, and Tivoli needs to figure out what we think is appropriate here.
Yep,
We can't do that without taking the pulse from everybody. So, Deputy Mayor Major.
Well, first I want to say thank you to Trustee Cole for having taken care of my report last month. You did a fantastic job, and I look forward to having you do it again.
My pleasure.
Okay, there is an event on February 1st at Historic Red Hook, which is going to be awesome. The county historian has been working with this collection, which are referred to as the ancient documents, which they are. They're the ancient, legal cases of Dutchess County. And so it's the annual living history event at the Elmendorf. And what they're doing is they're putting together a day with costumed interpreters and basically recreating a court session in 1813. And so you can come and you can interact with the interpreters. You can be part of the court session. There will be dancing. There will be one of the best historic fiddlers in the world there performing. it's gonna be such fun. So I guess, back in the day, a court session would be like a circus, right? Because it would happen, court didn't happen all the time. So there was like court days. So everybody would come in from, the hinterlands and, it was quite an event. So that will be at the Elmendorf on February 1st.
I was gonna sarcastically ask if they really did fiddling and dancing during a court session, but it seems like they actually
Well, not
did.
the courtroom, but yeah.
But the other thing is we're blessed in Dutchess County to have one of the few historians who's also a stand-up comic.
Yes. Our Dutchess County history is amazing. And there will also be there's games and gambling and whatever. Historic gambling, not actual money.
And his name is Will
Tatum.
Will Tatum,
Yes, the third.
the third.
The other historic sites are pretty quiet right now. It is that season, but if we get any snow, the sledding at Montgomery Place is, so head over there. Strangely, since it has been so unseasonably warm, the ticks are still alive. And I was out in the bays today, and I am sort of itching around a bit because I feel them, I think, on me. So be aware of that. That's pretty much all I got.
Right.
Oh, library, always awesome.
Always awesome.
TivoliLibrary.org, and check it out.
Thank you. First, I want to give an update on the Tivoli Firehouse. We received today the schedule from the company who's going to be doing the rebuilding. That's Belfour. And work is going to, the big steel beam is scheduled to arrive first week of February, which is like the 5th.
February 5th.
You have the schedule in front of you?
I do.
Yeah. Thanks. Thank you.
I read that already.
So steel delivery, steel installation early February, structural building cleaning mid-February, electrical plumbing repairs late February, interior finishes, drywall, ceiling tile insulation throughout March, painting, Plimo vent system? Plimo?
That's the exhaust system for the trucks.
That hangs in the bays?
That takes the carbon dioxide out of the building.
Yep. Engine bay floors and punch list final cleaning in early April. So they had told us when we hired them that this would be ready in May. The schedule still says
Supports
that.
It's wonderful that they did add in some extra time for inclement weather.
Right, so,
Well, there was a couple of things on that thing that I had called and talked to Mark and said, I don't see anything mentioned yet when they're changing the roof unless it's coming in under the steel structural thing there. And then the other one was the overhead doors. Yeah, they didn't mention anything there when they were putting those in.
right, they did ask me, and, we want to put particular doors in, and they asked for the specs today as well when they sent this schedule. So, I know that all of us in Tivoli, myself included, who wrote some emails earlier in the week to finally get this sharper emails than I often write, have been waiting, like, what's going on? But the work's gonna get underway in earnest next month, and by May, we should be able to get our fire department back in that building. They've been doing administrative work out of the St. Sylvia's Rectory. We worked out a nice arrangement with the diocese. You've been holding your big meetings in this building and running all the calls out of that temporary building. So as soon as the old building is rebuilt, we get to take down and remove that temporary structure and restore all the normal parking patterns around this building, which I know have been a real headache for everybody.
Is it gonna be fireproof?
Is it going to be fireproof? I don't think anything's fireproof, Matthew. But that's the plan. So work will get started next month. Thank you. So while we're on the elements, I'll shift from fire to water. I think everyone knows that we had a disruptive and difficult week here in Tivoli, starting a week ago today, when it was discovered that we had a major water main break on Lower Broadway, and when they're down there, the elevation to the tank is that much greater and the pressure is that much greater, and so it quickly drained the storage tank. So most residents woke up Wednesday to find no water. That got quickly fixed by the water authority. but it has led to a week of conversations about communication during this period of transition. So that's what I really want to talk about. And there are two things I want to make sure that every Tivolian does. These are the two best things you can do to minimize periods of not knowing about things that really matter to you, like our water. First one, if you have not already, go to the Village of Tivoli website, tivoliny.org. On the homepage, halfway down on the left, is the village email list. If you want to be on that list, and you should, I really encourage you. That is my main means for telling residents when something's important. Sign up. You just put your email in, hit subscribe, and you will get, when I've got something important to tell you, as I did at 12:36 p.m. on that Wednesday when I had a grasp of what was happening and the prognosis and the diagnosis, that's where I wrote. We have 260 people signed up for that list, which lets me know that we have a lot of people who are not signed up. So next time someone complains that they didn't know what was going on, ask them, are you on that list? Have you signed up? It's really easy. Go to the homepage. Please do it. Secondly, as Trustee Israti had said, our new managers and operators of our water system, the Dutchess County Water and Wastewater Authority, have an alert system. I have sent this to residents a number of times. Currently, if you go to the Village of Tivoli website, there's a big notice that I put up the other day that has everything you need to know about the Water Authority. It's got all the numbers. I didn't get a bill. I have a question about my bill. There's a billing number. I don't have water. I think there might be a break. There's an emergency alert number. And also there you will find a link to the website that Susan was talking about, where you can scroll down through all the water systems managed by the Water Authority, sign up under Dutchess Delivery, enter your email, and then you will be on their alert system. Now when you go to their webpage, it says, you go down, scroll down to Tivoli, and it'll say all their notices are posted there, but even to know to go, sign up for their alert system. An additional wrinkle to the week that we all just had is that Deputy Mayor discovered that their alert system was on the fritz, right? But it has been
It is
corrected.
up and running now, yep.
So part of, what wasn't working this week was that, but that is not a regular thing. That was an anomaly. Unfortunately, badly timed anomaly for us this week. And then on the boil water notice, so when I believe that whenever there's a water main break in Tivoli, which as we know has been frequent, you are going to get a boil water notice from the Water Authority. They put that in their alert system, their electronic system, as soon as they can, but there is some time between the guy in the field addressing, digging the hole, finding the break, turning off the valves, and getting an assessment in the field. He has to notify their office, and then they'll get their communication out. But there's definitely some time there. Then what they do, and this is a perfunctory routine thing with the county health department, the Water Authority is going to tell you to boil your water. And that doesn't mean that they've tested the water and that it's bad or they know anything, but in case it is, this is a precaution, and this is going to happen all the time. Whenever there's a water main break, that's how the Water Authority is going to handle it. Now, if you sign up, you'll get that alert earlier. They do go around, as they did this week, door to door. They were doing it at 5 p.m. in the wind, giving a paper notice to everyone. Now, they know that there are people who aren't online or don't have another means, so they really try to physically get these out to everyone. But again, there's even more time that elapses between the Water Authority knowing what's happening, there's a break, people should boil their water, electronic notice, print these paper ones into people who go door to door. So, I know that break was in the morning, people were coming home at 5 or 6 o'clock to this boil water notice. That's why that came then and not, I know a lot of people want to know immediately, but I just wanted to explain a little bit about why it takes time for these notifications to come. And again, that water that was flowing again after this break, it was not tested. We don't know that there was anything wrong with it, but as a precaution, that's the best policy, and that's what you can expect. So with that overview, I'd say the best thing to do right now is go to the Tivoli website tomorrow, read what I wrote there, and that will help you out. And also, as I said in my email I sent out to everyone, if you want to come in and talk with me about any part of this, why we did it, what we did, what's the authority, what's going on, I'm around. And I've had a couple residents take me up on that. I'm very, very happy to sit with you and answer any question that I can answer. So don't hesitate. Your mayor's right down the block, and I'm not going to hide from you, okay? So with that, we'll open it to public comment.
I just want to say I drank the water and it made me stronger.
I'm glad to hear it.
Do you have any weird superpowers now that we don't know about?
I
Just
need
broke his
two
tongue.
times. Getting back on the water thing, when there's a water main break, I mean, I knew there was a water break at 3 o'clock in the morning, because when I went to turn on the faucet, nothing came out. I should have called, I didn't, but I assumed somebody already knew about it. The problem comes in is that where the water authority dropped the ball is they did not notify Mark that there was a water main break and there was no water.
Okay.
I had to call Mark in the morning and tell him if he was aware that we had no water in the tower. He was not aware.
Fire department, yeah.
Right, fire department. He was not aware, and he got in contact with the other guy who's a Claremont Fire Department, fire guy. And he finally did call him and tell him, Mark told him, so he has to notify her. It's just something that they gotta do on every water main break,
Yep.
because we have to switch from hydrant to tankers. And we have to know right away that if there is a structure fire, we're calling for tankers.
Yeah.
Because we can't trust the water system, the water pipes or whatever.
Yeah, well, thanks for letting
So
us know
there's
that.
new
we
established
absolutely
protocol in
have
place.
protocol.
But that is something that has to be put into place. First person to be notified has gotta be the chief or assistant chiefs
Yep.
that there is no water in the village.
Thank you, Tom.
Second, speeding cars on Broadway and Montgomery Street. There's a white Renegade, Jeep Renegade, that flies up Montgomery Street, and like I've told you before, they're not going 35, they're not going 40, I'm telling you, they're flying, they're doing 50 or better. And this is when you're putting kids on the bus and everything else. I got a plate number, I have the vehicle identification, I have the plate number and everything. The other day when it happened, they put it out over Tivoli, whatever. I mean, haven't seen the person come up Montgomery Street in the last couple of days, but they went flying out of Broadway. They identify even another person that's seen him, said it's a young female, blonde hair. They gave me the plate number, and it's the same thing. It's a white Jeep Renegade. We gotta do something.
Can you send me the plate?
Huh?
Can you send me the plate?
Oh, yeah. And my thing is, I know the state police do a fantastic job there on the corner, but the problem is that 8 o'clock in the morning when everybody's in a hurry to go to work or school, there's nobody there to watch the kids, somebody's gonna get clipped.
Could I add something to that, as usual, my perennial problem? I mean, there's the post office structure, and there's like 3 of them. I think there's the post office contractor, Amazon, I think, delivers, and I think FedEx delivers to the post office now, and they come in early, about 5:30, starting at 5:30. And one of the guys says, I'm not exaggerating, he's doing about 50. Because he zooms right through, and I stopped about a year ago. I just said, we'll be there tomorrow. Never came. I just stopped calling the police. I mean, it's just because they never, ever, ever, ever showed up. So I don't know what you can do about it. It's a county road, I understand that. You can't have Red Hook police coming, but,
Well, I mean, I can call the police and not give up on the only tool that might address it. I mean, that's fine.
I've been calling for over 20 years, and I'm just so tired of doing this.
I called the sheriff's department the other day over this thing, and I got absolutely nowhere.
Yeah.
All right, well, let me try my
So-
August title and see if that will help.
Yeah.
Can I also ask Tommy, when you are talking about this Jeep Renegade in the morning bus pickup, is that like high school bus pickup?
No, this is
Elementaries?
what,
Okay.
the elementary.
So we're talking
It's
about
like,
8?
it's usually between 8:10 and 8:20 that they go flying, that she goes flying up the road. or she's going out of the village the other way. She must know that I'm onto her or whatever. It's,
Well, if these trucks are at 5:30 and this is happening at 8, that fits nicely into a 4-hour patrol, so.
I know this isn't Tivoli, the Stony Brook Bridge, culvert, whatever, and I saw they work, I walked by, they're working on it still, but do they give you any information as to when this is supposed to be done or anything?
Yeah, we can all call our town supervisor anytime.
Well, I figure maybe you knew something, I don't know. They would
Well, it looks
alleviate
like they
some
got
of-
started and then winter came and now I went by there today myself and I saw the equipment is there, so I'm sure as soon
It's
as the
there.
weather comes,
Okay.
but, yeah.
Because that'll alleviate some of the traffic that we're getting right now.
I
so.
think they also discovered that it's a nastier problem than they
That
anticipated.
always happens.
So there are technical issues
Yeah,
they were.
no doubt.
I also want to comment on traffic on Broadway. Since the new bridge, people go so much faster. And it's not just the post office,
No,
which is quite a few big trucks, but it's really a good percentage of everyone that goes down Broadway. And I think we're the only ones that really get the worst of it, bottom of the hill. And I know they do catch a lot of people at the stop sign, I've heard too. Is there any way we can get more speeding on Broadway and less, we only have so much time for it's the sheriff, right, on the corner as well?
A lot of what's happening at the corner is the state troopers.
State-
Oh, yeah, that's what I mean, I guess.
The other day, last week, he was down by the monuments.
Yeah.
State
Well,
trooper,
I
he
will
was catching speeders down.
certainly reach out to them and, I think they do training and whatnot here and there's certainly some other things that could get plenty of practice with here. So,
And it
yeah.
Well, I've
looks to
seen
me
speeds
like
by
there's
here, right
about
here, by the village wall. I
Yeah,
mean,
they-
it doesn't matter.
50 citations here, most of which are
Well,
stop signs.
Yeah, and if you look at them though,
Yeah.
But that's
this
not
report
the speeding
spans
down
more
where
than
you
just
are.
Yeah, I know,
December.
so,
This is,
yeah.
you've got
Okay,
charges here
thank you.
from
Sure,
Thank you
absolutely.
very much.
One other thing I forgot to mention, last Saturday, I was present and Tom was there at the ribbon cutting for the community solar farm in Red Hook, which was really, really great. It was sort of a wonderfully and eerily warm Sunday morning. So it was sort of nice, the sun was out, but also everyone was saying it shouldn't be this warm in January, which is why we're going community solar. So I know some of us have signed up individually. The 3 municipalities are going to be getting their solar power. The gentleman from the firm that set it up said, I believe, that they've started measuring how much electricity it's putting out, and that on some days it's been providing power, 10% of the electricity in all of Red Hook, in all the town of Red Hook.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Which means
We signed up quite a while ago and we're not really gonna even get on until spring or something. Is this?
Well, according to the thing, the switch got turned on Sunday.
Yeah.
And they still had some little bit of hurdles they gotta pass with Central Hudson.
Yeah, I don't think we've
Once
seen it in our
that, once
bills yet.
that's done, once that's
Yeah.
done and cleared.
Okay, so no one's really getting the.
No, nobody's getting it.
Okay.
Right, but it's behind the Red Hook Firehouse, on Firehouse Lane there, several acres, and the Sun Common, I guess they won the RFP to do this, and they were great, they did some really nice presentations. They had a whole vegetarian breakfast, pancakes, knot sausages and all that stuff. It was a really, really nice event, and it was one of the great ways where the two villages in the town can come together to do something that none of us could do individually. So certainly congratulations to all 3 municipalities for getting this done. And definitely Supervisor McKeon deserves a lot of credit for leading us as a town to this outcome. So that was really great as well.
Well, great too that the villages got offered it first, right? Like if because I don't have room for solar panels, or if your house isn't oriented right, or
But
I
they
really
was
like
part
our
of
tree in
that.
front.
you like that.
Yeah, or you live in a
condo
condominium.
or whatever. Like it's nice to have
That
this
was
option.
kind of the reason was that in more intense, densely populated areas would have less option for installing solar. Yeah.
Any further public comment? Yes.
I would like to put a formal request in, just to have, for next meeting, to have a Panda representative come down, if you want to add it to the agenda. I think they just want to catch up, say hi, and thank
Oh, yeah,
you.
that'd be
We haven't
great.
done that in a couple of years.
Cool.
Robin, will you just make a note of that, so we add it to our agenda, and maybe you could shoot me an email, Danielle, just so
Yeah,
I've got
I'll do it
the
tomorrow.
record, and
Yeah.
we would love to have you. That would be on the, let's see,
19th, I think you
19th of
said?
February. Yep.
Okay.
And here I thought she was gonna say, that we provide heat.
In this room.
We'll add that to the agenda for the next meeting.
But you're saving energy.
One quick thing on fire department thing.
Yeah.
Even though I'm no longer the president there, but as a member, I can still speak. We did a $500 Christmas. We adopted a family in Red Hook, and we went to Community Action. We got put in touch by one of the priests, and it was kids and stuff, and that was involved, and we made the donation there, and we bought all the gifts and stuff like that. It's been nothing but positive feedback from the family. I know she just mentioned it to me that her mother works over at the Community Action, how grateful the family was and stuff. So I just want to let you know that the fire company does give back. And we also did, during November for Thanksgiving, we also made a donation over to them for Thanksgiving, whatever they needed, people needed to buy. So just that, you know that the fire company is still up and running and doing things.
You let us light up your truck for Winterfest.
Yeah, we lit up the truck for
That
Winterfest.
was a big hit. Motion to adjourn?
I'll move.
Second?
Second.
Good to call. All in favor?
Bye.
Hi, Danielle.
8:12, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
How are you?